Good morning. Welcome to UUCC, the UU Church of Canandaigua. I'm Eileen, I'm your minister, and I'm so glad to be with you this morning. It's really a pleasure to see your smiling faces and even just your names if you've chosen to keep your video off because you're eating breakfast or you're still in bed. No judgment here. Before we begin our service this morning, I have a couple of quick announcements to share with you. The first is that there's a congregational meeting immediately following this morning's service, wherein you all will vote on whether you'd like to call me as your minister. So if you're a voting member of this congregation, stick around. After the service, it should not take too long. It should be relatively painful, and make sure you log your vote. If you're a voting citizen of this country, I want to ask you to check whether you have a plan to vote. Maybe you've already voted in our general election. If you don't have a plan to vote and you need a ride to the polls, let me know. We can help you with that. And then I have a few other announcements. I want to share some slides with you. The first is that you may have heard we are holding a Thanksgiving pie sale. It is nearly already that time, if you can believe it. We're looking right now for pie bakers who would like to donate some pies to the pie sale, or licensed drivers who are willing to make some local deliveries. And we're also looking for some folks who might want to help with the logistics of coordinating all this. So if you're interested in helping, you can contact Pat Mills. It says she's board member Pat Mills. That's because I replaced Gigi's name there. If you've already contacted board member Gigi, then don't worry about it. They are working together. So your contact will not be forgotten. If you're a pie eater and you'd like to buy some pies, or you'd like to give some to your family members for Thanksgiving, hang on. There will be an order form soon. I want to let you know that on election night, on November 3rd at 7 p.m., with our Rochester UU siblings, First Unitarian and First Universalist in the city, we are hosting a quiet contemplative service for about half an hour. You'll get a special email with a Zoom link to that service. And I invite you to come and just check out of whatever anxiety you're holding that evening. Give the news a break for 30 minutes. Join me and Sherry and Margalie and Lane and our very own Bill Mells as we do some quiet meditation together. And now let's take a deep breath in. Let us enter a space of worship. Time to light our chalice together. If you have a chalice or a candle or any kind of flame that you're going to light this morning, I invite you to light it with me. And if not, let's just say our chalice lighting words together. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, celebration of the life we share together. So I went to my cousin's house last week for a backyard fire. We sat around a small fire pit outside, socially distanced, of course. We talked until far too late in the night. When I think about what might be the most fundamentally human thing to do, I imagine it must be sitting around a fire telling stories. This has got to be how we became human, I think. How we became conscious, became spiritual. This is what makes us different, right? From the creaturely ancestors who came before us, fire and stories. This is how culture came to be, religion, sitting around a fire, telling stories that matter, listening, remembering, carrying the stories on to the next fire and the next and the next. Until we are in a backyard in Rochester, New York, with an old hoodie and a beer, laughing and telling stories that somehow must carry within them a seed of those very first tales. This is, I think, most essentially why we come to church. We light a sacred flame. We tell stories that matter. We carry them on with us to the next gathering, and the next, and the next. We reshape them, and they reshape us. Story by story, we become more wholly human. Let's join together in singing our first hymn, Breaths.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Sigh. Whoosh. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Sigh. Whoosh. Whoosh. Sigh. Whoosh. Whoosh. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than
Now it is time for a story. This morning's story comes with some pictures from a book called Room on the Broom by Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler. And the story goes like this. The witch had a cat and a hat that was black and long ginger hair in a braid down her back. How the cat purred, and how the witch grinned as they sat on their broomstick and flew through the wind. But how the witch wailed, and how the cat spat when the wind blew so wildly it blew off the hat. Down, cried the witch as they flew to the ground. They searched for the hat, but no hat could be found. Then out of the bushes, on thundering paws, there bounded a dog with the hat in his jaws. He dropped it politely, then eagerly said, as the witch pulled the hat firmly down on her head, I'm a dog as keen as can be. Is there room on the broom for a dog like me? Yes, cried the witch, and the dog clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the fields and the forests they flew. The dog wagged his tail and the stormy wind blew. The witch laughed out loud and held on to her hat, but away blew the bow from her braid, just like that. Down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the bow, but no bow could be found. Then from out of a tree with an ear-splitting shriek, there flapped a green bird with a bow in her beak. She dropped it politely, bent her head low, then said, as the witch tied her braid in the bow, I am a bird as green as can be. Is there room on the broom for a bird like me? Yes, cried the witch. So the bird fluttered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the reeds and the rivers they flew. The birds shrieked with glee and the stormy wind blew. They shot through the sky to the back of beyond. The witch clutched her bow, but let go of her wand. Down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the wand, but no wand could be found. And all of a sudden, from out of a pond, leaped a dripping wet frog with a dripping wet wand. He dropped it politely, then said with a croak, as the witch tried the wand on a fold of her cloak, I'm a frog as clean as can be. Is there room on the broom for a frog like me? Yes, said the witch. So the frog bounded on. The witch tapped her broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the moors and the mountains they flew. The frog jumped for joy. And the broom snapped in two. Down fell the cat and the dog and the frog. Down they went tumbling into a bog. The witch's half broomstick flew into a cloud, and the witch heard a roar that was scary and loud. I am a dragon, as mean as can be, and which with French fries tastes delicious to me. No, cried the witch, flying higher and higher. The dragon flew after her, breathing out fire. Help, cried the witch, flying down to the ground. She looked all around, but no help could be found. The dragon drew near with a glint in his eyes and said, just this once I'll have witch without fries. But just as he planned to begin on his feast, from out of a ditch rose a horrible beast. It was tall, dark, and sticky, and feathered and furred. It had 4 frightful heads and had wings for a bird. Its terrible voice, when it started to speak, was a yowl and a growl and a croak and a shriek. It dripped and it squelched as it strode from the ditch, and it said to the dragon, buzz off, that's my witch. The dragon drew back, and he started to shake. I'm sorry, he spluttered. I've made a mistake. It's nice to have met you, but now I must fly. And he spread out his wings and was off through the sky. Then down flew the bird, and down jumped the frog. Down climbed the cat, and whew, said the dog. And thank you, oh, thank you, the grateful witch cried. Without you, I'd be in that dragon's inside. Then she filled up her cauldron and said with a grin, Find something. Everyone throw something in. So the frog found a lily, the cat found a cone, the bird found a twig, the dog found a bone. They threw them all in, and the witch stirred them well, and while she was stirring, she muttered a spell. Ickety, zickety, zackety, zoom. Then out rose a truly magnificent broom, with seats for the witch and the cat and the dog, a nest for the bird, and a pool for the frog. Yes, cried the witch, and they all clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. And that is the end of our story. You might be wondering why we would tell such a story, and we'll talk more about that. But I think it's important for us to notice that when someone asked that witch if they could come along with her, her answer was always yes, there is room. And even though she said yes to every person who asked and every creature who asked, she had to make room in the end. She had to remake her own broom so that there would be room for everyone, and she could say yes to them all, didn't she? And now it is time to share our joys and sorrows with one another. This is the time in our service when we lift up whatever it is that's in our hearts this morning. We are a community where we hold one another in our deepest sorrows and in our greatest joys. And so I invite you to use the chat feature to share with us what is on your heart this morning, knowing that whatever big feelings you're feeling today, we are with you. Are there joys or sorrows to lift up today? This morning, we hold many feelings in our heart. We lift up the struggles to make room for those we disagree with vehemently, and for jokes when they help us with that. We sit in memory of Beth and of Rob. We sit with sorrow and worry for the immigrants in need of housing right in our own neighborhoods. We lift up our gratitude for early voting, for easy voting, and our hopes that someday voting will be easy for everyone, everywhere. For these and all of the feelings left in the silence of our hearts, we are with one another today. And now is the time in our service for the spiritual practice of generosity. I invite you to give as generously as you're able to our church community this morning. It is through your donations that we fund the good work that we do in our community and beyond. I'm going to put into the chat a couple of ways to give. You can give by visiting our website. There's a link there in the chat. You can also give to our morning's offering by mailing a check to the church at 3024 Cooley Road in Canandaigua. And in either case, if you make a note that your gift is meant as part of this morning's offering, then we'll share a quarter of it with our monthly service partner. And our service partner this month is the League of Women Voters. I encourage you to take a moment to give generously, and I thank you for that gift. And now let us take a deep breath in as we come into a time for centering, meditation, shared silence. Get comfortable in your seat. Let your shoulders relax and your eyes maybe fall closed. The monarchs fly home to Mexico every winter. Over a 3,000-mile stretch of this wide earth, they fly in staggered generations. The great-great-grandchildren of the Lepidopteran pilgrims who set out from Ontario arrive in the Sierra Madres, a home they know only in the shadows of ancestral memory. It is said great gauzy swarms of wayfaring butterflies in flight over Lake Superior swerve to the east. Every year they reroute, avoiding the path of collision with an ancient mountain that has not existed for eons? What would it be? Trust so deeply the wisdom of ancestors laid down in our veins and sinew. What would it be to know we'll never make it home and set out toward it anyway?
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
So we're nearing the end of October, and we're coming to the midway point between the beginning of fall and the beginning of winter. In many traditions, Samhain for the Celts or neo-pagans, All Saints' Day in Christianity, Dia de los Muertos in Mexico, we remember those who have died at this time of year. This grief, remembrance, it's like being in a middle place. We are here and alive, and also, if we have lost someone we loved, part of our heart has passed into another space altogether. We are in between. Even the trees remind us of this, enacting the drama of in-betweenness every year. They are alive and here, and yet part of them falls away dead to be remade in the life of the earth. Our beloved deceased are also in between. They are both here and not here. Here in the stories they told, in the stories they lived, and that we still carry. Here in our bones and our breath, in the intricate tapestry of our DNA, and in the lessons we learned from them. We carry them with us. They also live in our mistakes and our missteps, our bad habits too, don't they? Our beloved ancestors have also written stories in us of their stubbornness, of standoffishness, of codependence, or austerity and excess. Sometimes carrying them can be a burden. I often think about the story in the Bible of how the Israelites, when they were fleeing Egypt, walking through the desert for a generation, carried the bones of Joseph with them. The story says that Joseph made his descendants promise to carry him out of Egypt, even in death, to carry him to that promised land, even as a pile of bones. And the in-between folks, the people in the middle space between the trauma of slavery and the joy of liberation, they said yes. They carried him. I think about this story, and I think it's worth asking what we as a church are carrying with us. Which bones are we schlepping into the promised land? Which stories are living in us, and which story are we living in? As our stories call us to look back and look forward, how are we embracing the blessing of the middle space? In these few years I've been serving here, our community has lost members to death or to change. We've gained new members. In our highest ideals, we are like the witch on her broom, answering yes to every soul who asks to come along with us. Unlike the witch, I hope we'll have some foresight about how to carry everyone while we're in this middle space. There was loss in the middle of radical welcome for her, loss of what once carried her well. There is loss in the growth and change of a community. What once carried us all will not always. The stories that matter will shift and change. Yes, there is room. There is room here in the middle for more stories, new stories. It will require of us that we tell our story in a new way, that we are willing to be remade out of the stories that everyone carries, remade by each new story and the next and the next and the next. In this middle space around this sacred flame, becoming more fully human, story by story. Like in death, the church that once lived will still be here, alive in the stories we carry and the values that carry us, that gather us together. And it will be gone, in a way. It will be remade into a shape that can hold us all. There is some sadness and a whole serving of joy here in the middle of what was and what will be. Somewhere at the core of things, this seed of story that lives from generation to generation is the memory that we belong to one another. In the tapestry of stories we carry, in the tapestry of DNA that binds us to each other, is the memory of an ancestor belonging to all of us, stoking the fire of yes in our hearts. Yes, there is room. Yes, you belong here. Yes, we will love you. May we love wildly whatever we can and lay it to rest when we must. And may we make room for all that we carry and all that carries us. I ask us now to take a moment to honor the ancestors who have gone before us.
You're the soul who understands the scars that made me who I am. Through the drifting sands of time, I got your back and you got mine. If you bear a heavy load, I'll be your wheels, I'll be the road. I'll see us through the thick and thin, for love and loss until the end. 'Cause you carried me with you. From the highest of the peaks to the darkness of the blue, I was just too blind to see. Like a lighthouse in the storm, you were always guiding me. Yeah, it's true. You carried me with you. From the day it all began, yeah, you were there, you took my hand. When I hurt a bit too deep, you watched me as I fell asleep. When my head was in the clouds, you found a way to pull me out. You picked my heart up off the ground and showed me love's alright. 'Cause you carried me with you. From the highest of the peaks to the darkness of the blue, I was just too blind to see. Like a lighthouse in a storm, you were always guiding me. Yeah, it's true. You carried me with you. Well, we'll be sitting on this world together, watching as the days turn into night. We know how to brave the stormy weather, and we're never giving up without a fight. If you should ever bear a heavy load, I'll be your wheels, I'll be the road. I'll see you through the thick and thin, for love and loss until the end. 'Cause you carried me with you. From the highest of the peaks to the darkness of the blue, I was just too blind to see. Like a lighthouse in a storm, you were always guiding me. Yeah, it's true. You carried me with you. Yeah, it's true. It carried me with you.
Let us let these words from Mary Oliver bless us and be a blessing on the memory of our ancestors. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, let it go. Let us join together in singing our closing hymn, We Are.
We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Let's extinguish our chalices together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Amen.